Welcome, quantitative reasoning, to our first lesson in this class. Today we're going to review PEMDAS, distribute solving equations, a whole bunch of housekeeping things that you are supposed to know. All right, so when we evaluate an expression, PEMDAS is what I learned as a child, and it's still what I use today. So P stands for parentheses, but we are actually talking about any kind of a grouping symbol. They could be parentheses, they could be brackets, it could be the numerator of a fraction. E is exponents. M is multiply and divide, and we remember we do that from left to right. The AS is add, subtract, and once again we also do that from left to right. So if we look at number 1, you cannot just simply do everything from left to right as it is here, because we have some multiplication and division, and where we see in PEMDAS, that has to be done before add, subtract. The other thing that I would like to point out is a grouping symbol means that there are things inside of it. Just because I have parentheses doesn't mean that this is coming first. When we are talking a grouping symbol, we're talking like 3 plus 4, something like that. There's something inside the grouping symbol to be done. This, we're just trying to keep the numbers nice and organized. All right, so I have add, subtract, multiply. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take care of this multiplication right here. So I have negative 3 plus negative 7. This says negative 8 times negative 90. And a negative times a negative goes positive. However, you have this negative right outside of that. So that is 720. And then we're going to bring down the divide by negative 5. Haven't used it yet. All right, so now I still have division. So I'm going to ignore all that. I have negative 720 divided by negative 5. So when I do this, I am always going to take the sign, because subtraction and negative are the same thing. Negative divided by negative goes positive. Negative 3 plus negative 7, and that is 144. Now we had addition and subtraction, so you can just run this in your head or in your calculator, left to right. That's negative 10 plus 144 is 134. The other ones look similar. When you do number 2, if you don't get negative 51, see me. Number 3, you should end up with 32. Number 4, you should end up with 30. Evaluate the following expressions. All right, so evaluate just simply means determine the value of something. So I have on number 5, I have a bunch of variables here, but I have a code. It says, okay, A equals negative 4, the B value is 5, the X value is negative 1, and the Y value is 1/2. So the first thing that I would do is direct substitution. So step number 1, we're going to sub in the number for every variable. Step number 2, we're going to simplify with PEMDAS. All right, so A is negative 4 plus 4. 3b, that's multiplication there. I usually keep my numbers organized by using parentheses, -8. All right, so I have to do parentheses first. So -4 plus 4 is in parentheses. You have to evaluate this first, and that is 0. I know I'm not supposed to do multiplication yet, but when it's separated by a plus and a minus sign, it's kind of trapped in the middle and it doesn't actually hurt anything. So that is 15 minus 8. Well, 7 times 0 is 0. That's gone. So 15 minus 8 just gives me 7. All right, here I have x divided by 4. So it says x is -1. So I have -1 divided by 4. Y is 1/2. And I'm going to square that. When you square a number, you simply multiply it by itself. So that means that I'm going to take 1/2 times 1/2. We multiply fractions straight across, and so that is 1/4. -1/4 plus 1/4, those are opposites, and they cancel each other out, and you get 0. Number 7. Give that a try. You should get -99. I'm going to go ahead and help you out on number 8. We have radicals and absolute value bars. All right, we have a is -4 squared plus 9 plus the absolute value of -4. -4 squared is 16. 16 and 9 is 25. The square root of 25 is 5. When you take the absolute value of a number, it always goes positive. So the absolute value of -4 is 4. And there you just get 9. I lied. I am going to jump back to this one. All right, so I have a times b squared. So I have -4 times 5 squared minus -1. All right, so order of operations says that we have to do exponents first. So you have to square this 5 before you multiply it by -4. 5 squared is 25. That minus goes plus. -24 times 5 is -100 plus 1 is how I got to -99. We have some terms that I would like to do. A term is a single expression. It can be a number or a variable. So for example, I have 1, that's a term. X is a term. 3xy squared is a term. So I can have a combination of numbers and variables being multiplied together. That is fine. The coefficient, so if you were looking at 17x, 17 is the coefficient. It's the number in front of your variable. A constant term would be like 15. It's just simply a number. Like terms would be 6x squared and -4x squared. They have the same variable and exponent. In standard form, 4x cubed plus 2x squared minus x minus 15 is an example of something in standard form. So in standard form, your exponents go from largest to smallest, and you don't have any duplicates. Exponents in order, large to small. We're going to simplify and make sure your answers are in standard form. All right, so first thing you should do is you should distribute if you see any parentheses. Number 2, ICLT, that is combined like terms. All right, so all these are just expressions. There's nothing to solve here because there's no equal sign. All right, so we don't have to distribute on number 9. There's no parentheses. We just have to identify any like terms. All right, so I have an x squared. I don't have any other x squareds. I have these two y squareds, and then I have that minus 4x. All right, so I have 7x squared minus 4x. These are my like terms. When you combine like terms, you just add their numbers out in front. Plus 3 plus 2 adds up to plus 5. Tag on your y squared. You might be going, why did you put it in this order? That's kind of bizarre. So when you have a lot of variables, standard form, we go biggest exponent, but also alphabetical. So that's why I did all the x's and then I jumped to the y's. Number 10, a negative is the same thing as like having a coefficient of -1 in front of it. So I have to distribute that. Negative times 3k is negative 3k. Negative times 5 is negative 5. All right, now I have to distribute something with a variable. You have to recall that when you multiply variables, you add exponents. If there's no exponents, there is an implied 1. So this is going to be 2k squared. And then 2k times negative 4 is negative 8k. All right, so when I put it in standard form, I look for my biggest exponent first, and I generally cross it off so I don't reuse it. So 2k squared comes first. I have a negative 3k and a negative 8k. These are like terms. Negative 3 minus 8 adds up to negative 11. And I don't have any other numbers, so I'm just going to bring that down. When you do number 11, so that negative 5 right there, that's going to get distributed to both of it. Number 12, we're going to distribute the 3 into that parenthesis, and we're going to distribute the negative 4 into that parenthesis. So you need to know and realize that the distributing job is done when you come to the end of the parentheses. Check my notes for the answers. All right, we are going to solve equations now. So we do have an equal sign, we're going to solve. So if you have parentheses, you will distribute first. Combine like terms, that implies that you are on the same side of the parentheses. I always move my variables first. If you have variables on both sides, move your variables to one side. Constants, you have to recall, are just numbers. Move them to the other side, and then we're going to solve. All right, so my x's are already over here on the left. I'm going to undo the subtraction by adding 7 to both sides. Negative 7 plus 7 equals 0. 9x is multiplication. I'm going to divide both sides by 9 to get the variable by itself. And 0 divided by anything equals 0. All right, so here on 14 I have letters and numbers on both sides. So it says move the variables to one side. So your choices are to go plus 3u to both sides, or you can go plus 5u to both sides. I've been doing this long enough. I'm going to choose to go plus 5u to both sides because I know that that's going to give me a positive coefficient, and I like that. Bring down your -2. There's nothing to do with it. We're going to combine like terms, and that adds up to 2u. When I added it, that canceled it out. That's 0. And then bring down your -20. All right, my u's are over here. Now I need to send my numbers to the other side. I'm going to undo this -2 by going +2 to both sides. So you have to remember, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. That's how we keep equations in balance. -20 plus that is -18. 2u is multiplication. I undo multiplication by dividing both sides. And u equals -9. Number 15, I have parentheses. You need to distribute. You cannot move things across with parentheses. That becomes complicated. I'm going to distribute. -3 times 4 is -12x. -3 times 3 is -9. 4 times 6 is 24x. 4 times 1 is 4 equals 43. On the left side, I have like terms that I need to combine. So I'm going to combine my x's. -12x plus 24x adds up to 12x. -9 plus 4, those are like terms, those are my constants, that adds up to -5. Now I have what we would call a two-step equation. I'm going to add the 5 over so that I can get the variable by itself. 12x, I'm going to undo that multiplication by dividing both sides by 12. And x equals 4. All right, 16 and 17, I have some fractions, but they're very different. All right, so you always want to get the letter on one side all by itself. So this is my variable term right here. That's what I need to get on one side. This 8, that needs to move to the other side. You have to recall, if there's no sign in front of it, there's an implied plus sign with it. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. I'm left with x divided by -4 equals -3. I said it like this because you have to remember that if you have division, multiplication will undo that. So I'm going to multiply both sides by -4. On the left side, if it helps you, put that over 1 so that you have your numerators and denominators line up. So those -4s will cancel each other out. That's how I just have an x on the left. And negative times negative equals +12. Number 17 is different than number 16 because we just have one single fraction on the right. We don't have anything extra like we did right there. So the variable that I want to get to is trapped up here in the numerator. This is a division problem. Multiplication will undo division. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 6. So whatever your denominator is, that's what you want to multiply by. So that's how I cancel that out, and you get x plus 5 on the right. So the left side, you got to be careful. When you see this 6, if you just put a 6 right there, you might think that that is 6 minus 1. But in order to cancel that out, we have to multiply both sides by 6. This is actually 6 times -1, which is -6. And then I want to solve, so I'm going to subtract the 5 over, and x equals -11 for a good final answer. Thank you.